This is a Soaak podcast.
Welcome to The Frequency Effect, sponsored by Soaak Technologies, where inspiration fuels innovation. Join our experts as they elevate your mind, body, and spirit, one conversation at a time. This is The Frequency Effect.
Okay, guys, welcome to The Frequency Effect. I'm here with Tracy O'Malley. Tracy, I think last time we talked was nearly 5 years ago.
It's a long time. So much in the world has happened since then.
Oh, I know. Even before COVID, Tracy is an Enneagram specialist. She consults companies. I read a little bit about you, but I didn't want to read a lot because I want it to be more spontaneous today. She's worked with Google, with John Deere, with, was Facebook on there or was it something else? Facebook. Yeah. So, you know, some of those little companies and making changes in people's personality types, giving them success for their business, but also success for them personally, because you can be a public success and a private failure a lot of times. So, but if you're both, you can be a private success, and that almost makes you more of a public success because you've got your home life, you've got your personal life, you've got things kind of established, and that makes you just a stronger person, I think.
1,000,000%. I think that, when we're operating in integrity in all areas of our life as the truest, most honest, authentic version of ourselves, even with the flaws,
Right.
I mean, that's real success in my book. You don't have to wear all these different hats and masks, and it's like, this is me. Take it or leave it.
What I love about you is what you just said. You're a very take it or leave it kind of girl. I want to get to kind of where you came from, some of the struggles that you've went through. You've been at the highest peaks and the lowest depths, and you're up in the clouds again. So I'd like to kind of follow that journey a little bit, and a lot of our listeners tune in when I talk to very, very successful people that have the pulse on what the world is doing right now and how you can drop a few hints and you can say a few things during this podcast. People would normally have to pay thousands of dollars to hear you speak if they could get in, but hopefully they'll be able to pick up a few golden nuggets along the way that could literally change their lives. You could say 2 or 3 things during this podcast that could literally change people's lives, and that's my hope, that's my desire. So if you're ready to dive in and just be the Tracy you always are, tell us, growing up, kind of your aspirations when you were younger, where you thought you were going, and a little bit how that started.
I don't take the responsibility lightly that the words that I may share today may be the catalyst for somebody doing what they need to do to change their life. I get told a lot, like, you've changed my life. I'm like, I did not. I'm just the messenger. You actually had to cross the line and go into maybe a trail that you haven't been seen, that hasn't been blazed yet. You may have to cross a line from everything you've been taught, told, or modeled, and it may disrupt your life, So I don't take the responsibility lightly that I may point you in a direction that absolutely can change your life. And I'm here to cheer you on when you actually do take the step, because the things that happen when we are brave and courageous to do that, it's the most transformative thing. Like, if God took me tomorrow, like, that is what I'm most proud of, that I was courageous enough to do that. So, because growing up, it wasn't that way. You and I are in the same age range, and we were born
performance mentality
and just like, do as I say, not as I do. You're better seen than heard.
Right.
Who do you think you are? Respect your elders. Like, which, yes, like, I get that. But there was no room for that authentic, true version of myself. And I think a lot of times, in your home, that should be the safest place to be yourself. And I didn't have that, I was born, I was supposed to be, at least in my dad's eyes, he wanted a boy. And I mean, my room was blue till I was 6.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, I had all boy clothes, which is fine. Like, I'm a tomboy, so it worked out okay. But literally by the age of 3, I knew like every Chicago sports team, their starting lineups. I could open a beer bottle,
With your teeth.
I mean, with my little hands, I could
Yeah,
open
yeah, yeah, yeah,
a
yeah,
Michelob
yeah,
Light,
yeah. Right, 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 right.
and I never remember a time where a cooler wasn't brought somewhere. You know what I
Right.
mean? So
Sure.
that kind of sets the tone of what
Sure.
I was experiencing. And it was a very um, intense Jekyll and Hyde kind of
Sure.
household. Dad
Yep.
was a very high functioning alcoholic. Mom was emotionally just about the age of 9 was her
Yep.
emotional capacity. So
Sure.
I was kind of left to figure out a lot of stuff on my own, which is why I'm good at what I do today, and also a trauma response sometimes. You know what I mean?
Right, right, right.
And just I think a lot of times when we're that young and we have to seek out understanding in a world that like maybe doesn't have your best interest at heart,
Right.
it can guide you into directions. And we do what we're taught, told, or modeled, even if it's not what we want sometimes. And I think this is really
Absolutely.
important. If we don't repair it, you repeat it, or it gets repeated, or both. And that was very true for me. But I was raised to be a boy, and so like I remember when I was 4 or 5, my dad telling me like, "Thank God for this part." Like everything that's really brilliant about me, my dad was an influence on that, and a lot of the
Yeah.
dysfunctional stuff I've had to overcome also came from there. But
Right.
I remember him saying, "Learn how to make money when you sleep." And I'm like 5 years old, and like my green eyes are looking up at him like, okay,
How do,
no
yeah, yeah,
idea what
whatever that
that
means.
means.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like I was kind of the golden child, the referee, the one who was like playing chess with everyone at all
Right,
time.
right, right, right,
I'm a
right. Wow.
Chicago girl, 100% Irish, Aries, like all the fire that you could have, but at home when my dad was there, I that fire had to be contained.
Sure, sure.
But when he wasn't there, it was unleashed, and that wasn't always in the healthy ways. I have always been a take it or leave it kind of girl.
Right.
The problem with that back, the
Sure.
early parts of my life where it was coming from a place of bravado and protection and like
Hmm.
I'm not letting anyone near me kind of
Right.
energy, whereas today it's much different.
Sure.
And so I pretty much have had walls up my
Hmm.
whole life. People think they would have known me, but they really didn't.
Sure.
I joke like I had walls so high they were made of titanium and there was a moat around it. So
Oh gosh.
like even the people
No
closest to
way you're getting
me,
in.
yeah, no, I'm like a vault. And
Right, right.
but I craved the connection, but it was too
Right.
risky. I mean, I couldn't have connection in my own home, let alone out in a big world where like you can't trust anyone, or so I thought.
Right.
And
Right.
I had that lone wolf syndrome. Like if it's to be,
Sure.
it's up to me. And I had the receipts to show that that worked out pretty well for me in a lot of
Mm.
ways. And
Right.
also, like it felt very lonely and empty,
Hmm.
and not what we're here to do. We're made for connection. And
Sure.
I figured the only way out of that scenario, quite honestly, I played college softball. I wanted to be a trauma surgeon, ironically,
Hmm.
um,
Wow.
and realized that that's too much school, and I don't want to be inside, and I don't want to be
Right.
stuck anywhere. So I
Right.
decided
Right.
to go to school to be a paramedic, firefighter instead. Like same kind of thing, but
Wow.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
outside, you never know what you're gonna
Not as
get.
contained. Yeah.
Yeah, not as contained. That's a theme for me. Like
Uh-huh.
I don't have to be in control of everything, but I won't be
It just
controlled.
can't be contained.
Yeah. And so I got hired in Chicago to start, and then met a guy, and I figured he was my only way out of Chicago.
Mm.
I tell the story like to kind of paint the picture. My dad and I had a pretty dysfunctional, codependent, and beautiful relationship. It was
Mm.
very confusing because I always felt like I had to prove my worth because I wasn't a boy. Like I had to be, as good as possible, because I was not, that wasn't changing for me, obviously.
Right. Right.
And so I felt like I always had to earn the right to be seen, heard, understood, valued, accepted, acknowledged. So everything was performing for what I thought my dad would want. And
Hmm.
part of that, when my parents got divorced, I chose to live with him because like we had this weird
Yeah.
codependent kind of
Right.
relationship. And I mean, I didn't go away to school. I stayed local to stay with him. And then when I met the guy, I was like, wow, this is my way out. And he was from Arizona. And like when I told my dad, A, that I was getting married, he could care less that I was getting married at 21.
But when you're moving,
When I'm moving 3,000 miles away,
right, right.
the
Oh
man
my
threw a table,
gosh.
you know?
Oh my gosh, I bet.
So it was very telling of how dysfunctional and codependent
Right.
our relationship was. But I moved anyway and was like, I'm going to set up shop. I'm going to do it different, very young and cocky. And,
Right,
I've
right,
been
right, right.
babysitting kids since I was 9 years old. My neighbors used to let me babysit their three kids under three overnight as a 9-year-old.
Oh
Like
my
that's how well advanced I was. And
Tracy.
yeah, I mean, that CPS would be called today, but back
Yeah,
then,
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
was that responsible and put together as a little kid. And when I moved to Arizona and got married, like a good Irish girl does, have a set of Irish twins. And by the age of 25, I was married with two kids, two dogs, and a mortgage. And like, see,
I
I
mean,
I know what I'm doing. And then my kids turned the age of 4, and all the memories and all the over responsibility and all the dysfunction and all the things that, when you become a parent, you're like, what? Like, how was that even
right,
possible? And
right.
I did not know what to do with all of those feelings, all of that
Mm,
rage, all of that anger,
yeah,
sadness. And so I started my journey into like trying to understand, adult children of alcoholics and dysfunctional families. And
right.
that's when I learned what codependency was. I was like, I'm not codependent. I'm super independent, not
Right,
understanding what that meant.
right.
And so that was, gosh, 27 years ago that I started to dive into this. And this was at a time where personal development wasn't on the map.
Right,
And if
right,
you went to therapy, you were crazy. So
right,
I
right.
was kind of in the closet trying to make sense of this while being a young mom and a
Mm,
wife and all the things. And it was very hard. Like I'd have 5 steps forward, four back, five forward, four
right,
back. So there was progress, but it was minimal. And then, the explosion would happen because I don't know how to deal with that. And that all came to a head after a divorce, after the recession, the
right,
2008 kind of crap. And
right.
then my dad had a cancer diagnosis and died 12 days later.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, and I was 40. I just turned 40 and kind of waking up like, what is all of this for?
Hmm.
And I remembered back when I was 9 years old during the most volatile times, growing up, I was seeking out God and an understanding of what God was in my life. I was raised in a Catholic environment, but,
Hmm.
it
Right,
wasn't really modeled for me.
right,
And
right.
so I believed in a God, but I didn't know what that meant.
Hmm.
And while you're going through that as a young child, it's like, okay, God, I know you're here, but what does all of this mean? And I remember as
Right.
a 9-year-old God saying, like, this is all going to matter for something bigger. That my,
Wow.
my favorite scripture is the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord.
Yeah, yeah.
And I believed that as a 9-year-old, but it would take another 31 years for me to realize what that actually
Sure,
meant.
sure.
And after my dad died and I realized my coping skills were not great, I had an issue with alcohol, not like an everyday thing, but a Jekyll and Hyde situation where you never knew what you're going to get.
Right,
Eating, disordered
right,
eating and a very
right.
dysfunctional relationship with food. I made the decision 6 weeks after my dad died to check myself into rehab, to get a new
Oh my
toolbox.
gosh. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I walked away from my career, which I was successful at and needed. I was the sole provider after my divorce and just, blind faith and knowing that this is all going to matter for something. Back,
Hmm.
when I was a kid, this was the fork in the road. Like, are you going to
Right,
use this for what I have planned for you, or are you going to go down the trail that you've been taught, told, and modeled? And I made that decision that day for myself, for my kids, that if I want something different, it's going to require something different. And my kids are going to do what I do, not what I say to do. So
right.
I went down a trail that hadn't been blazed, at least for me,
Mm.
at the age of 40 years old. And that's where the journey started. The real,
Oh my
the real
gosh.
journey with God started.
Right, right. So did you get out of rehab around 40, 41, just to kind of track the time? Because I know you've been sober for 13 years, 14 years.
Yeah, 13 years. So you guys can do the math. I'm almost 54,
Yeah.
um, which is amazing. Like, I remember when my parents were this age, I was like, gosh, they're like so old. And
I know.
I'm just getting started.
I
Um,
know.
so I was in rehab for 30 days, and I
Mhm.
remember sitting my kids down. They were 14 and 15 at the time, and I'd been divorced
Oh, wow.
like 4 or 5 years by then.
Mhm.
And I had a lot of anger and resentment, being the sole
Sure.
provider and, not having any help. And now I'm 3,000 miles away from any family, which
Right.
was okay, but also like, I was mad.
Yeah. 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 Sure.
I remember sitting the kids down and saying, I promise you, when I get home, things will be different. I don't know how, but I do know why. And it's because of you.
Mm.
It's because
Mm.
I want you to know that I am always your safe place. And I know that
Mhm.
I haven't always shown that to you. And I need new tools. And I promise you it will be different. And my son, who was 14 at the time, he's my sensitive empath. He
Mm.
said, Mom, I'll give you up 40 days or 30 days to have you the rest of my life. And I
Wow.
remember the first 2 days in rehab, I didn't really talk to anybody. I was kind of looking around like, is this really where I'm at? Humbled, but also like, this was a good humble pie that I was dished, and
Right.
it was for all the right reasons. And
Sure.
I remember my therapist telling me the statistics of those of us that, attempt sobriety and maintain recovery is only about 2%. And I
Mm.
remember looking around the room, and I'm a numbers girl. Thanks, Dad. And I looked around the room, and the very first words I spoke in rehab were, I apologize to all of you because none of you are going to make it because I'm
Because
the two.
statistically, I'm the one.
I'm the 2%. And
I love it.
sadly, I was accurate. My roommate died 18 months
Oh
later of
no.
alcohol poisoning. Every single person that was in
Oh no.
rehab with me relapsed within 3 months. And yeah, I took it very seriously.
And you made it.
Yeah, and it's one thing to take away, the person, place, or thing that kind of numbs you or makes you feel or whatever. It's like,
Hmm.
but then you're left with yourself
Right.
and the way that you cope with things and the emotional stuff and the nervous system re-regulation after 40 years
Mm.
of being so dysregulated. I mean, I
Sure.
can't even hear like ice cubes drop in a glass. It
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
it used
Triggers.
to really trigger me, because I knew
Yep.
it was coming. And when you're left without any of the stuff that you use to quiet that noise and you're left with
Right.
yourself and the noise that you have in your own head, that's the real freaking work.
Yes.
And when you get
Yes.
home is when you're really tested. And I
You
pretty
got
much,
two babies looking at you. Not your
yeah,
babies, not babies, but two kids
but
looking
my
at you saying,
babies for
"Mom, yeah,
sure.
what are you going to do now?"
Yeah, and nobody said like life gets easier necessarily. Life is still going to life you in the face and
Right.
kick you in the teeth. But what are you going to do without all these other coping mechanisms that
Yeah.
temporarily made it easier, but long
Sure.
game created dysfunction? And, life did get hard. I had to wipe out pretty much everyone in my social network except for my kids because,
Oh my gosh.
environment is stronger than willpower. And I was
Right.
probably the healthiest in my environment, which is very telling for, the
Sure.
scenarios that I was in. And it was hard, but I remember day by day that living amends that, I said it would be different, and I'm showing that day in and day out with my decisions, with my communication, with my energy,
Right.
especially. When you grow up with dysfunction, you don't have to have words being said. You can feel it,
Yeah.
right? And even though on paper and outwardly I said and did a lot of the right things energetically, it was a time bomb all the time. And my kids, had been walking on eggshells. And so when I came home and was, keeping my side of the street clean and doing the right things and making the hard decisions and
Mhm.
exploring and being humble and vulnerable.
Yep.
I built that trust with my kids pretty quickly because I was walking the talk now. I wasn't just talking the
Sure.
talk.
Sure.
And the culture in our home switched overnight.
Wow.
And yeah, and it was just a beautiful thing, and now they're almost 28 and 29, and we are beyond close in the most healthy,
Oh my gosh.
non-codependent ways. And
Right.
they're thriving and they're my greatest teachers, my closest friends, and I'm their wise counsel. I'm always the first call they make. It's beautiful.
Wow.
Like I never had that. I never had that. So
No.
to be able to create that without having that taught, told, and modeled for you, that is my greatest success, even though I have success and a lot of accolades that I have earned and
Sure.
are respected. That to me is the greatest thing I've ever done in my life.
Right. So in a way and I want to jump closer to the present, you've modeled how you did it, having everything against you and having growing up in dysfunction. And because some people grow up normal and still have problems, like
Yeah.
you're not void of problems, whether you grew
No.
up that way or not, but especially if you grew up in a dysfunctional family. And I had some of that going on in my family. We could probably swap stories, but
Yeah.
it looks like from the outside that you've taken that and the way you modeled it to reach the most precious people in your life, being your kids. You've
Yeah.
then taken a step back away and saying, okay, I did that this way. How can I reach the world? How can I train other people? How can I train other leaders to what I said at the beginning of the show, not just have success, not have, be a public success and a private failure, but
Right.
to be a private success and a public success. Like, is that kind of what spurred you on to get into like reading the Enneagrams, which I want to get into the definition
Yeah.
of that because a lot of people are, what did he say? And how does that then help you identify a person, their ways, their passions, the way they process things, and then how do we change those things that we don't like about ourselves? So backing up,
Yeah.
was that kind of what spurred that, or was it something else?
Well, it was interesting because as, I went through rehab and started this journey online
Hmm.
at a time where social media was getting its glow up, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Um, and so I was living out loud and I was in the health and wellness space after rehab. I switched careers completely. Never ended up being a firefighter because I got pregnant and all the things. And then,
Oh, I was going to ask.
yeah, never ended up a firefighter, got pregnant, like passed the test and then went to take the physical and was pregnant both times. So I was like, that's a sign. Okay, I got it. So I ended up in the car business for most of my pre-40 adult life, which is a very intense, very male dominated, which I thrived
Oh,
in.
for a female, I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah, I was great.
Wow.
I'm spicy,
Wow.
so it worked. And I'm
Right.
thick-skinned and like, take it or leave it kind of girl. So
Right,
it
right,
worked
right,
really,
right.
really well, but it was very soul abandoning,
Sure.
in that industry. So when I went to rehab, I resigned and, took my income to zero, basically,
Mm,
not knowing what I was going to do next, like blind faith again, like trusting
sure.
God that like this is all
Jumped
going
off
to
a
matter
cliff.
for
Yeah.
something. One of the promises in recovery that, makes me emotional to this day. And if you're listening and you're struggling right now and you don't know like how this is all going to matter for something, when I read this promise, the promises of AA, you can Google it. They're beautiful and they apply to whatever you're going through. When you take this journey of transformation, whatever that looks like for you, one of the promises is no matter how far down the scale you've gone, you'll see how your experience can benefit others. Like when you're in the
Wow.
pit, it's hard to believe that that's true. And I ended up in the health and wellness space 6 months into sobriety, like literally picked up my sobriety chip that morning and started in this wellness journey and ended up
Wow.
being this leader. And the thing that people like, they loved my energy and my vitality and,
Sure.
my courage,
Hmm.
obviously.
Hmm.
But it was the relationship I had with my kids that really people wanted to understand. Like I made mistakes and, my biggest fear growing up, even before I had kids, was please God, don't let me mess up my kids. And,
Right.
I on paper wasn't always great, but I could
Right.
turn it around and people wanted to know more about that. And in rehab is actually by my therapist where I was introduced to the Enneagram. And I
Oh,
came
wow.
into it, yeah, like Nancy, my therapist, if you're listening, hi. She wanted me to do this, and I respectfully, very passionately told her what she could do with it. I wanted nothing to do with it. I was like, I'm here
Right.
to fix my life. I don't need some assessment to tell me
Yeah.
how much of an a-hole I am.
Right, right,
I
right,
already
right,
know
right. We
clearly.
all know this.
We got the receipts here. Like, got it. Got it, Nancy.
Right.
And she, she's no BS and she's a take it or leave it kind of girl too, and saw
Right.
right through that kind of that flex that I was trying to test her with.
Right.
And she didn't miss a beat. And she's like, my dear, this might help you get out of the box that not only the world has put you in, but you've also put yourself in. And your best thinking has gotten you here. So how about you open up your mind a little bit?
Wow. Gave you
I
a
was
little
like,
challenge.
touche, Nancy.
I know.
You're not wrong.
Right.
And what
Wow.
the Enneagram gave me was something I really had been kind of practicing my whole life. I think growing up in an alcoholic home, you become a very good reader of people, right?
Sure.
And coming from a very passionate Irish family, there's all sorts of personality flying around. And I needed to be able to read a lot of that. And also, I believe that is part of the calling that God has had on my life, to be honest
Sure.
with you, is
Sure.
the ability to see into people's souls.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, the first 40 years of my life, it was to protect myself, right? And to
Right.
be one up on people. But,
Right.
through the humility and beautiful gift of recovery, I could read people, but not from a place of protection and keeping people away. But I was
Sure.
curious. I was
Right.
fascinated. Like, how did my dad end up the way that he ended up? Like all the
Yeah.
great and
Yeah.
all the not so great. And my mom
Right.
too, and me.
Right.
Like,
Right.
I
Right.
know the
Right.
things that are my superpowers are also my kryptonite. So how do we keep
Balance
that
that.
without
Yeah.
changing? Like God
Yeah.
made us all beautiful. You
Right.
were beautifully and wonderfully made. It's that
Right.
free will that kind of takes over, and uh,
Yes.
our coping skills that kind of change the expression of that. And so when the Enneagram got dropped into my life on day 2 in recovery, it was like God was saying, I've been waiting. I've been waiting for you to be responsible enough to use this in integrity before I gave you the roadmap of everything that you already know.
Even God was trying to contain you, and it took rehab to put you in one spot to get you
A
to
million
settle
percent.
down and just look at something.
Yeah. And that I didn't have to operate from
Wow.
a place of protection. And it's like when the
Right.
Enneagram
Right.
got
A safe
revealed to
place.
me, I knew it all, except now I had language and a framework to put to it.
Wow.
It was beautiful. And that's why I'm so masterful at it and got it so fast. I've
Hmm.
been at
Hmm.
it 13 years, so I'm
Yeah.
very, very good with it. But I
Hmm.
got it right away. And my first aha was, oh crap, I only know this language, which was my Enneagram type. And I'm
Right.
raising 2 children that not only are different from me, but they're different from each other. And so while I was in rehab, I could pretty quickly identify where my kids fell on the Enneagram and realize, like, oh, they're motivated completely different from me. And that doesn't make them wrong.
Right.
I'll never use the phrase mini me again because, they're unique
Right.
to
Right.
God's plan for them. And
Right. Right.
with what I understood, I came home from rehab and knew what their greatest fear was and their motivator. And I started speaking to that. Like,
Mm.
how can I empower them for who God designed them to be, not who I expect them to be?
Sure.
And that
Not to
changed
fit your mold like you fit your dad's.
exactly. And I didn't
Right.
even realize, like, no matter how well intended I was, it wasn't landing. And so
Right.
with my understanding of
Because
that,
it couldn't because of who they were.
no, no, it's a
Yeah.
totally
Yeah.
different language. It's like
Wow.
if I
That's very important.
very important.
Hmm.
And, thank goodness of the gift of humility because I also recognize that, yes, what I bring to the table is very valuable and important, and a lot of people can learn from that. But I have a lot to learn from the other 8 Enneagram types. And I
Right.
am so gifted with 2 of the Enneagram types that I probably need the most in my life. The
Can you
free,
explain? Can you
yeah,
explain real quick because I know I'm probably going to have you back for a part 2
yeah,
because I love this so much. I feel like I'm just getting into it and I need another
yeah,
hour. but
yeah,
but tell me if you don't mind,
yeah,
what is an Enneagram? Where did it start? How did you? I know how you got into it now,
yeah.
but what is it? What is it? A test? Is it an assessment? Is it because I haven't looked at any of this.
Good. There's lots of schools of thought on it, and the way that I explain it, teach it is very different than probably what you will Google. So
Mhm.
Google it, ChatGPT it. It's a personality system.
I'm Tracy
However,
O'Mallowing it.
exactly. Because I'm like, okay, Nancy, why do I need to understand this? Like,
Yeah.
what's in this for me? Like, why
Right,
is this
right,
so
right.
damn important?
Yep, yep, yep.
And I've carried two babies in my body, and they
Yeah,
had very unique energy and personality
sure,
even before they were earthside, and then were dropped into life,
sure.
right? And the expression of God's blueprint for us
Hmm.
can change based
Right,
on the environment and
right. 100%.
all the things, right? You know this with energies
Yeah. Yep.
and frequencies, like that can
Right.
change on the drop
Yes.
of a dime.
Yes.
And the Enneagram is kind of the road back to who God designed you to be before life kicked you in the teeth a little bit, and
Mm.
before you were taught, told, and modeled the box that you're supposed to fit in. And
Mm-hmm.
it was such a relieving moment when I was exposed to this. It's like, oh, you mean I don't have to change who I am, but I am responsible for the come from, you know? And
Mm.
and all those things that make me great are also the things that make me a wrecking ball in my life,
Sure.
right? The differentiator in that is the come from, right? If it's coming from
Mm-hmm.
love, compassion, empathy,
Sure.
grace, service, fun, then those are my superpowers. That intensity that I have is my
Right.
superpower. But when
Right.
I'm in fear, insecurity, unworthiness, shame, guilt, or ego, then I am destructive and a wrecking ball to anything in my path. And the Enneagram is that roadmap to let you
Mm.
know, like, there's nothing wrong with any of us. We all have a blind spot and a shadow that, you
Mm-hmm.
know, based on maybe what you've experienced or been taught, told, or modeled, that comes out to play and does the opposite of what you really want for your
Mm.
life.
Right.
And the Enneagram is the atlas to be
Mm.
who you were always designed to be, to honor the gifts that you have, to understand where you lack, and
Mm-hmm.
being open to learning from all the other there's 9 different Enneagram types. Each has a very unique motivator, each has a very unique fear. And even, when it appears something is what I'm afraid of, if I
Mm-hmm.
really do the 6 degrees of separation of what it's
Right.
really at the root of it, it's the same thing every time. And
Really.
ironically, it's vulnerability, right? For the
Mm.
Enneagram type that I am, that's what it is. For
Mm.
my son, it's not being loved and appreciated. Like, and for my daughter, it's being restricted and not having choices and options. And me, trying to be the control freak was crippling both their spirits. And the Enneagram was this atlas that unlocked, like, this is the direction that they need to
Mm.
go to be the very best of who God designed them to be. And I'm not going to
Right.
interrupt God's plan.
Right.
Right. So how can I use
Right.
this atlas to empower them and be a safe place for them and truly, truly see them? And that's what the
So
Enneagram can unlock for you.
going back to what you said earlier, I've actually had conversations with my wife that I've got certain tendencies, and I know I have certain my own set of superpowers. What I'm really, really good at,
Yep.
putting that towards something good helps a lot of people. But if it ever took that just one little turn and went the other way, it could really hurt a lot of people. And it's like
Yes.
my responsibility to understand that, become self-aware, and ensure, and having a group that I'm accountable to that keeps me on that path. We'll go into a restaurant, and I'll say the first thing I look at is what door exits it. If somebody came in there with a gun, what would I do? And I would go bam, 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 and I've already got it
Yes.
mapped out in my mind. And she goes, I have never thought of that. And I go, well, you're not like me.
Yeah.
and so I could see that whole difference of your superpowers could also be your kryptonite and all that. Is this a test you take? Is it something you send people online? Is it some people they talk through with you and you find out your own
So this is the
Enneagram type?
downfall.
Or
Yeah, this is the downfall to the system. And, it's been trendy now, which has done it a disservice, in my opinion. Like, thankfully, it did a beautiful thing because it brought it more mainstream.
right?
Because I wasn't even using the Enneagram publicly. I'd been using it kind of in the Enneagram closet. I understood
Got
it
it.
where I could kind of understand where people fell without ever having to talk about it.
Hmm.
And
Right.
then it became trendy and it pissed me off, quite honestly, because I was like, you guys aren't even using this. They were
Right. Right.
kind of liking it to like astrology, which, is a beautiful
Yeah.
resource too, but that's
Yeah.
also like placated and things like
Yeah.
that.
It's got its own set of problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, like the Enneagram, fortunately and unfortunately, the Enneagram is a combination of nature and nurture, spirituality and psychology. So it's a little complex that some little 5-second quiz online can
He's not going to get it for you.
know. And
Yeah.
that's why I did not want to be in this space. It's like, well, I can't show them the atlas if the information's wrong. Right? It's like if I tried to send you to Mexico, but you keep ending up in San Diego because you have the
Sure.
wrong information, right?
Sure.
So what I usually will tell people is if you do an online thing, like know that 65 to 70% of the time it's going to be wrong. And
Mm.
so working with somebody like me, I can really nail it down because I can kind of fish through a lot of the stuff and then give you the right atlas. So like you said, like I can beeline exactly when I
Mm-hmm.
get triggered, irritated, my
Yep.
temperature rises. I know exactly where the root is, right?
Right. Wow.
Um, so that's the downfall to it. But I really don't want to discourage people from getting curious about it. Even some of the paid online assessments are inaccurate 65 to 70% of the time. And I've done thousands of interviews using some of those before. Now I have an
Sure.
assessment that's 95% accurate.
Oh,
And in the
nice.
thousand, yeah. So, I mean, it's more expensive, obviously,
Sure.
because it's more in depth and kind of hits you from all these different angles. But that is the hard part about it is like when I was taking my assessment the very first time, it was wrong too. But
Oh,
behaviorally, I
wow.
could look like that.
Right.
Behaviorally, like made sense.
Yeah, there was enough truth to
Motivationally,
it.
yeah, and
Right.
of course that's what I wanted it to be. But
Sure.
motivationally, like not even close. And this
Wow.
is all rooted in what is your core motivation. And if you've experienced any kind of hard crap in your life, chances are
Mm-hmm.
you've been masked up and armored up for a lot of your life. And so the behaviors might be the coping, not the motive. So it,
And so
it can take a little bit.
once you get through the assessment, and I want you to tell people here in a little bit like how they can get a hold of you and all this. But and this has been amazing. I've learned so
Thank
much
you.
about you. Once you get through the assessment, then what do you do? Do you look at it? Do you then break it down and tell people the who, what, when, where, why,
Yeah.
and kind of explain that? Do you give them a roadmap? How does that usually work?
Yeah, so there's a few different ways. Like obviously, if you don't never want to see me, you don't have to. I will assess it, I check it out, and then I have custom blueprints for you. So it's
Got it.
basically your personal atlas. Now, it's just like anything, like having a guide accelerates your
Sure,
understanding and
100%.
integration of this.
Yeah.
But you'll know that you'll have the right information and then explore, right?
Right.
Or you can do a quick 30-minute live reading where I basically explain it, give you the blueprint, and also kind of do a little bit more in depth of,
Sure. Ask more questions.
yeah, and
Yep.
there's framework attached to your personality. It's not just this is what you are. There's ways that you can use all components of the Enneagram to become, the highest God designed version of yourself. It's not
Right.
like left in just your Enneagram type that's within the framework of it. And then obviously I do deep dive one-on-one sessions, which I've been told like by many people, it's like 10 years of therapy in 90 minutes in all the best ways. I do couple sessions, I do family workshops, because even though I have done a lot of work with, highly touted corporate teams and
Mhm.
professional teams, like, I say this a lot. I'll never forget the hole that I crawled out of to get here. And this all started in my home team. This all started in my
Wow.
home team. And so I will always, always, always do marriage, couples, family work. It is the thing I'm most passionate about because
Mm.
this tool and my understanding and integration of it transformed. Obviously, getting sober definitely helped, but this gave me a roadmap with so much uncertainty in those early days that it kept me on track to keep the main things about who we
Sure.
all are and to honor that. So yeah, I do all of that
Wow.
kind of work.
Wow. And just while we're here, and we've got about 10 more minutes, but
Yeah.
how would people get a hold of you? Let's go ahead and tell them now because I don't want to switch gears and forget
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, you can go to my website, tracyo'malley.com, TracyO'Malley.com. The work with me section has all these different things, or you can just email me. It's on the website, and I customize anything that you want. I do all sorts of cool things with this tool because I think the right tools in the right hands do beautiful things. There's all sorts of tools in the world. The Bible, is a beautiful tool.
Sure.
The Enneagram is a beautiful tool. Chainsaws are great tools, but the same tools in the wrong hands can be destructive.
Hurt
So
you. Yeah.
my goal is to bring this tool to people who want to live the most integrous, beautifully intended lives for those that they love, those that they lead, everybody that they touch. So
Sure. Sure. Now, that's fantastic. I'm definitely going to get online, and I've never thought about doing an Enneagram for myself, but I
yeah.
think it would probably give me more insight and
I have an idea where you fall, but I'm not going to say. I'll wait till I see it. Yeah, there's been some cues like this. That's the cool thing. You remember the movie The Hangover? I don't know if you ever
Yeah.
saw it.
Yeah. No, I love that movie.
Love that movie. And there's a scene where Zach Galifianakis, I can't remember his character's name, the guy who had the real funny one,
Right.
um,
Right. Yeah.
where
That's him.
where he's walking into the casino and they're gonna make all this money or whatever, and Zach
Right.
is walking into the casino and all these equations are going up above his head,
Right. Right.
and that's pretty much me,
That's you.
and always
Less
has
the
been.
beard.
I've always had that kind of curiosity. Again, now it's
Yeah.
for beautiful intention. But whenever I'm listening to somebody or watching TV or anything, I'm always kind of doing the calculations of where's the core motive here. And, I've been listening to you too. And so I may have an idea. I'll be curious to see if I'm right.
Okay, so I'm going to do something. I am going to have you back again if you're willing to come
Yeah,
on
of course.
the podcast, and I would love. I'm going to be super vulnerable right now,
Good.
and I want to hear your thoughts on who I am, what you've already calculated, and then I want to take the test, and I want to come back, and on part 2, we're going to let people know how right you were or wrong you were. I think you're going to be right. And kind of where that lays, if there's a way to do that.
Yeah,
If you
sure.
can give me a general, okay.
So
And when you're
listening,
assessing me, tell people like why you made this
yeah,
assessment.
yeah, that's the most important part.
Okay.
Before I tell you what I think, I usually ballpark it between 2 or 3 different types, but one of the things that you said, which was very, very clear, and I'm going to ask for more clarification.
Yeah.
When you talked about walking into like a place or a restaurant and kind of scanning and always kind of assessing the risk,
Right.
right? I bet with most things in your life, you have a strong need for certainty and being prepared for anything.
Mm-hmm.
That in anything that you choose to do, you have lots of questions.
Right. I do. Yeah. I
Yeah.
question everything, which drives my wife nuts sometimes.
Right. And
Laura, if
before,
you're listening.
yes, Laura, I understand because before I understood this, I would have taken that as like, you're trying to control me with the interrogation. I would have
Right.
taken that as you don't trust that I got things handled, which how dare you to an
Right.
Enneagram 8, which is what I am.
Right.
And in understanding the people that are like you are master troubleshooters. You are visionaries. You are strategists. You keep us safe. You're great collaborators,
Mm-hmm.
right? Part of the reason you're a great collaborator is because you want to make sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing too,
Okay.
because then you're prepared.
Right.
So if I was to guess, I would say you are in the center of intelligence that goes to thinking first, right? And so I have a daughter in the thinking center. There's the feeling center, the thinking center, and the instinctual center. I'm in the instinctual center,
Mm-hmm.
right? My son is in the feeling center. My daughter, which I think you are too, is in the thinking center. So when things happen for somebody, I believe, like you or my daughter, you go into what do I think about this and what could happen in the future? You're very future oriented kind of thinking,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
right? You're kind of assessing
Yep.
it. Now,
Yep.
that could be because you need information to feel prepared. It could mean that you need information to feel like you have certainty, like you need to know things in order to have validity.
Right.
Or you need to know things because you like freedom, choices, and options, right? So those are
Right.
kind of the 3 types that are in that center. If I'm to guess, the type that needs to be most prepared, I would say you're either probably a 5 or a 6. So the 5 is the investigator, which they need certainty that they have the information, knowledge, and resources all the time. Where
Right.
the 6, which is kind of where I'm kind of hinting where you might fall, they need information because they need to be prepared. There's a difference there. There's a different distinguish between needing information, knowledge, and resources to know, and there's a
Right.
different reason to have information, knowledge, and resources to be prepared. And I'm sensing you're more of a, I need to be prepared because a blind side is like worst case scenario for you.
Right. Right. No, you're from what I'm getting from this conversation. Yeah, you're very, very accurate. And I have been, it has been suggested, well, you're just trying to control the situation or whatever. No, I just need to get all the information so I can make
Yeah.
the best decision, even from a protection type standpoint. Like I want to
Yeah.
protect this situation, this business, this you.
Yes.
And it's like, it's like, well, why would you ask this and this and this and this? Is because I need to know.
Right. And before my understanding of this, I used to be frustrated when I would have somebody like you, because exactly you're trying to control me, which
Right.
worst case scenario for this girl,
For you.
right? But because when I start to pick up and I'm curious, like I'm always curious for
Right.
compassion, for connection, for a better understanding of how I can understand you better, because we have better conversations when we are curious about each other with beautiful intent. And now when I pick up on cues from somebody that maybe is more wired like you, instead of being standoffish or frustrated with you, I'm more compassionate. I'm like, listen, Henry, I will sit here. You can ask me as many questions as you want. I'm an open book. I got nothing to hide. And as long as it takes, I will answer every question. And I'm going to have you know that even if I've answered all the questions and there's still maybe some fear in there, we're still going to take some action, right? Because you
Oh
can
my
get
gosh.
paralyzed. You can get paralyzed by fear and
See, that's
anxiety.
music to my soul.
Yes. And immediately it's like you are
We're
able
best
to
friends.
operate. Seriously, like I had a very close friend at one time that operated like that. And my goodness, like the fire hosing of questions. And
I bet.
she had experienced a lot of stuff in her life. I'm like, listen, I got you. Like, the worst case thing, everybody listening, everybody that loves Henry and works with Henry, don't ever tell him not to worry about it. That's an insult to somebody like Henry, because he's going to worry about it. And so that took that out of my language as well. It's like, listen, I understand that like there's some fear here, and I will be an open book and fire hose me with as many questions as you want, and I will take the time it takes to answer them.
Because what you're saying now, and we are at time, but what you're saying now is how I've responded to other people who are more thinkers, that then when they ask me questions, I get offended a little bit. And I'm like, even though I need to ask questions, you don't need to ask me questions. Right. Where would that put me now? Did I slide to another?
Well, it's because you already probably have a plan of how things are supposed to go, and they're throwing a wrench in your system.
That's very true.
You know what I'm saying?
Very true.
Now even it still spices me up when people interrogate me a little bit, and it's not, it's more like,
me too.
It's like, don't you think I have things under control? Because I'm motivated by being strong. And if you're questioning my strength, like, how dare you? And now
same.
They need certainty now, actually, so that I can be that for them. Right. And so I understand the difference today. Yeah. Beautiful. So I'll be curious to see if I'm right.
I know. Thank you so much. Well, and this will make a great episode. Christian, please mark this episode as episode 1, because we're going to have an episode 2. I'm going to take the test and actually come back, and I'm going to have her interpret some things. I've got more questions for her. And this has been beautiful. This has been so great. I think a lot of people is going to get help by this. Guys, if you want to get more into this yourself, go to her website, tracyo'malley.com, and sign up for whatever she has. Get the package that's best for you. And if you want to come in slow, come in slow. If you want to go to the top level, if you're a corporate leader, if you're a team leader, if you're a CEO, she's worked with little companies like Google and Facebook, but she'll also work with individuals. So that there shows how you really want to help the world. And I'm so glad you're in my life. We'll get on the next episode, we'll get to how we kind of first met, the things that we both were experiencing, and kind of what brought us 5 years later to today. Yeah. And we'll do all those updates later. But thank you so much for being on, and it's been absolutely beautiful.
I'm honored. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for sharing your time with us today. After you've subscribed at Soaak Podcast, please leave us your questions and comments. Remember, your frequency is what you think about most frequently. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.